Good afternoon. I'm KH11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez, filling in for Chief Meteorologist David Paul. We are off to a quiet night here across Houston. We did have those gray skies, though, earlier this evening, and it's all thanks to those storms that were just off to the west of Houston. Those, of course, have fizzled out and tapered off. Now we're just looking at quiet conditions and partly cloudy skies that are currently in the picture. We're 2 degrees cooler than what we were at this time yesterday. 89 degrees east-northeast winds at 8 miles an hour. The humidity is still quite high, so it's going to feel like it's in the upper 90s, especially if you're heading out this evening, especially to those high school football games as well. So just make sure to stay hydrated, even though it's not going to be as sunny. So far as our hourly planner, lows dropping into the 80s, partly cloudy skies expected to last through the overnight hours. But for the rest of our Labor Day weekend here across Houston, we're expecting rain chances. Unsettled weather expected to be in the picture through the start of next week, and it's all associated with a cold front that's just draped across the state of Texas along the southern half of the state, and that's what you're able to see right here on radar. So if you're heading out and about right now, we're looking at quiet conditions for Houston, storms tapering off, but if you're heading off towards San Antonio, they're looking at still some more of a heavy rain and some more widespread storms that's now approaching the I-10 corridor. So if you're making that trip to San Antonio, be on the lookout for storms, as it's going to be in the picture for this evening. And like I said, the conditions tapering off and quieting it down here across the Houston area. Still a shower out near El Campo, so be on the lookout for that if you're heading out to the Corpus Christi or the Rio Grande Valley for this evening as we go into Labor Day forecast. So it's all associated with this frontal boundary that's just sort of just draped across the southern half of the state. That's going to be the cause of our weekend rainmaker, and it's going to be in the picture at least the start of this next week for Monday and into Tuesday. So as we go into looking at the next few days, as Future Track does show those conditions becoming a bit stormy by the evening hours. We'll go ahead and back it up just a little bit so you can see when the timing is for the heaviest rainfall, especially as we head into Saturday. So it's looking likely starting off quiet and then going towards 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's when we're going to start seeing storms along the coast. But then by 1, 2 p.m., that's when we're going to also start seeing those storms flare up from Houston to League City for areas inland. So definitely keep that in mind if you are traveling out and about for Saturday. And then by Sunday, we do have a bit more heavier rain expected to move through by the afternoon hours. So this is something that we've been used to for the past few weeks, of just those quiet mornings and then those stormy afternoons, and then things tapering off and quieting it down by the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock hours. So it's nothing that we're not used to already for the past few weeks. So Future Track just definitely keeping those storms there, at least for the start of our next week. So as we go into looking at that flood risk for tomorrow, this is for Saturday. The Storm Prediction Center keeping all of southeast Texas under a marginal risk for flooding. That is a 1 out of 4. And what that means is that we could see some ponding on roadways, some minor flooding possible with any storm that does bring between 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. So keep that in mind as well. Not a washout, nothing widespread, but just be on the lookout for those rogue storms that have really been in the picture for the past few weeks. And then by Sunday, that's when we're going to start seeing a bit of more of an elevated flooding risk, especially for areas northwest of Houston. So if you're traveling off towards Austin, maybe San Antonio, they're going to be under a slight risk for flooding. That's a 2 out of 4. It's more of an elevated risk for some possible widespread flooding, especially in and around those populated areas. And then we're still going to be under that marginal risk for us here in Houston for Sunday, as that's the day that we're going to see a bit more higher rain chances. So as far as the rain potential, taking it out through Monday, might see between a half an inch to an inch of rainfall in total going into the start of our work week. But the good news is that we are expecting a dip of the humidity. So humidity has been just in place all the past few weeks, and that's going to be dropping by Monday and into Tuesday. And that's going to bring conditions feeling more comfortable out there, even though high temps are going to remain in the lower 90s. So as far as your 10-day high temperature trends, highs remaining quite warm and humid. especially for the weekend, but going into your 7-day forecast, expect those conditions remaining mostly active in terms of the storm chances. And when you see that storm chance, it's not going to be widespread or it's not going to be a total washout. Just keep in mind that those storms are going to be possible during the afternoon hours, during the warmest parts of our day. Of course, we can't forget about the tropics. We're still tracking that wave that's currently off the coast of Africa. It really has not really formed into any organized low at the current moment. The National Hurricane Center is still giving that system a 30% chance of development within the next 7 days. It's just looking very unorganized. Doesn't look too impressive out there just off the coast of Africa. And the reason being is because we have some Saharan dust in the picture that's currently encompassing that area, especially if it does take that southerly track, and another plume of that is expected to be moving off the coast of Africa in the coming days. So live look right now, looking mostly quiet out there. If you are making your way across southeast Texas, I know we have those high school football games that are currently taking place across the city. Just keep in mind that we are just dealing with some humid conditions and warm conditions. And so the temps right now, 89 degrees, east-northeast wind at 8 miles an hour. And then we are expecting those conditions to remain mostly just humid and just quiet than from what we've seen in the past few hours. And so radar right now, if you are heading across town, not looking active. It's storms have quieted down. Those storms were just over the Katy area about 30 minutes to an hour ago, and now that has tapered off, and it's looking likely that we are seeing most of the rain activity off towards the west of Houston, towards Columbus, even north of Gonzales and New Braunfels. That's where we're seeing those storms approaching the I-10 corridor. So keep that in mind if you are heading towards San Antonio. Elsewhere across the country, mostly quiet conditions for the most part. There is some storms off in far west Texas and some severe storms that are moving into the Texas Panhandle. So if you're heading in that direction, or if you have any flights moving in that direction, maybe you're having a flight moving off going off towards California or to the West Coast, we got some storms on the way. Hopefully the planes are higher in the atmosphere by the time they make it over those storms by the start of this evening. And so that's what we're looking at in terms of now. And as we look at that widespread and more of a widespread radar, we're just looking at this frontal boundary that's draped across the southern half of the state. And you're able to see that with those line of storms. I know the front is not really on the map, but in terms of my graphics, but you can just see just that line of storms. It's just showing that frontal boundary just slowly moving southward, and that's just really going to remain draped over the southern half of the state in the next 2 to 3 days, and that's definitely going to bring that rain chance for us here across the Houston area as we go into the next for this weekend. So definitely keep that in mind if you are out and about, or if you have any visitors in town, that we just maybe do your activities earlier in the day, or maybe later in the day after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, because that's when we see the storm activity become a bit more widespread, is between the hours of around 12 to 5 to 6 p.m., especially is what we've been looking at all summer. So it's just been mostly active in terms of a storm and rainy summer for the past few weeks, and that's just not changing, especially for Labor Day. I don't think it's going to fool any plans. And like I said, I know you see rain chances and a stormy outlook for our weekend, but I think it's going to be mostly hit or miss. It's not going to be widespread, and but you could run into those if you are making your way across town for this weekend. And then expecting some drier conditions by Tuesday and Wednesday. Highs just remaining a bit warm, but we could see some lower humidity by the middle of the week. And then once again, isolated rain chances by Thursday and Friday. And also just keep in mind, we're heading close to the peak of hurricane season. So I know things are quiet right now in the tropics, but that doesn't mean hurricane season is not over. So definitely always stay up to date with your latest weather forecast and the latest weather updates on KHOU.com and on the KHOU 11 app. And of course, I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your extended weather forecast. Make sure to tune in tonight at KHOU 11 News at 10 p.m. I'll have more on a weather update for your Labor Day weekend forecast. And of course, Mia and Lynn will have the latest news headlines. Have a great rest of your evening.